Hello, and welcome to this Fastman presentation as part of the OpenText Solution Extension Partners Expo. We're very pleased to be part of this program, or this event, and we appreciate you taking the time to participate in this session. Today, we're going to be looking at the DocuSign for OpenText Content Suite solution from Fastman, which we sell in conjunction with DocuSign themselves. But before we start that, just a little introduction about Fastman. So we've been operating since 2006. Obviously, we're a member of the OpenText Solution Extensions program. We're also a long-time DocuSign partner. We're best known in our the sphere here as the developer of the Permissions Manager product and the Bulk Data Manager, which are two products we've been selling for quite a number of years. Very, very effective, very widely used in public sector and in energy and utilities and so on. We have offices in Australia, in North America, and representation in Singapore and in Europe. And today we're going to be looking, as I mentioned, at the DocuSign for OpenText Content Suite solution. And this presentation is going to be presented by Brian Lapointe. And Brian has got a lot of experience in both areas. So I'm sure you'll enjoy this. And at this point, I'll hand over to Brian. Thank you, Brian.
Very good, Alistair. Appreciate the introduction. And hello, everyone out there today. I'm Brian Lapointe, and Vice President of Sales for Fastman, covering primarily North America, but anywhere I do get involved with the digital signature and DocuSign solutions worldwide. So you may hear from me in that regard. So for today, yes, we're going to talk about DocuSign and how we can connect that with your OpenText Content Suite or extended ECM deployments. It's a very timely solution and pretty much in the situation that we're all going through right now with a lot of remote work and that's been going on. It's been a big help for a lot of companies. Our agenda for today, as you can see on the screen here, we're going to talk about the value of electronic and digital signatures and how they're being used. We're going to take a look at how we can sign our documents within Content Suite itself or extended ECM, and then how does that signature appear on the documents? And then after that, how do I verify its integrity? There's two solutions. I'm going to kind of clarify that from DocuSign. So there's the traditional e-signature in the cloud, electronic signatures that you're probably very familiar with. But there's also a highly secure on-prem DocuSign signature appliance. So we're going to talk a little bit about that before we get into a few signing demonstrations. And then we'll wrap it up with talking about the connector specifically for the Content Suite extended ECM system and how that can be configured and the different options you have with that. And then, like as Alistair mentioned too, that it is a turnkey solution from Fastman. So we are also a reseller of DocuSign, so we can give you both the connector and the subscription to DocuSign, so you can actually do your signing and how you can buy and implement the total solution. So, okay, there's essentially two main offerings from DocuSign that we want to focus in on today. Okay, there's that first that everyone's probably familiar with when they may have purchased a real estate, signed a mortgage of some kind, and you did e-signature. That's the DocuSign Agreement Cloud. It's your standard electronic signature service in the cloud compared to the DocuSign Signature Appliance, or I might refer to it in today's webinar as the DSA, DocuSign Signature Appliance, which is an on-prem secure document signing in a high assurance digital certificate solution. Momentarily, I'll show you how they functionally work and differ from each other. However, from the appearance and evidential perspective, the DocuSign Agreement Cloud relies on an audit trail, essentially, that captures the key elements of the transaction and allows you to place a graphical signature on the document. You know, for example, that DocuSign Chrome, you see it right there with Tom Wood, it says DocuSign, and you see the certificate of completion that's behind it. That's essentially, that document is an audit trail, every activity that occurred as it went through. DocuSign does a real nice job of publishing those details and what, like I said, the certificate of completion, that's generally accepted as industry standard. Compare that, and for those that require the classic PKI digital signatures, the DocuSign Signature Appliance is ideal for an on-prem digital signing for compliance-centric use cases. okay? It fully complies with digital signature standards and embeds an individual certificate into each document that can be validated and trusted wherever the document travels. So depending on what you need to do, what level of assurance, whether you can connect to the cloud, you have two choices here. Vast majority of the use cases I see come from the e-signature in the cloud, especially these days, but sometimes there's some real specific use cases that want it on-prem still. So it really depends on your situation. So let's just look at the problem and the value here. The core reason, I guess, why so many customers have turned to DocuSign is because they continue to suffer from a paper problem, okay? Well, companies have invested heavily in your digital systems, like OpenText and other content management systems. They're still relying on paper to execute these transactions. As a result, end-to-end business processes are disjointed. With the sudden, as we get the sudden work from home mandate, many essential employees still need to go into the office just to process paper or some hybrid business process. So you still continue to run the risk of, under this COVID-19 exposure and so forth, in this situation. So taking a closer look at electronic and digital signatures, they essentially enable you to automate a broad range of use cases, essentially any use case throughout your organization. While many organizations implement electronic signatures in a specific department or function, the reality is that broadening the scope can drive value into nearly every position or every portion of your business. The bottom row of this graphic illustrates the traditional use cases within almost every organization. It gets even more interesting when you look into the specific vertical you may be coming from. For instance, public sector, the specific use cases, or every vertical has their core use cases here, and makes it very interesting at that point. As you start your journey on electronic signatures and you dive headfirst into it, into signature automation, it's important to think about your demand plan for your department. This really is the best way to identify all the potential use cases and map them to the business owners. From here, you can start focusing in a reliable manner for your signature consumption and high-level requirements. At the end of the process, you'll create this valuable matrix that can be presented to key decision makers to illustrate the opportunity for deploying digital signatures. You can calculate your potential return on investment and kind of put together a roadmap for prioritizing your use case deployment. And it'll help you. What it does, it helps you build consensus. Launching e-signature into a medium or large organization does take a little bit of thought and planning, and it's best to put this together to really understand where your volumes are coming from and to help create that justification and so forth. This is a spreadsheet. We'll share it with the video and the presentation and so forth, but I encourage you to take this approach too as you start to plan, do your planning. Okay, moving along. Here's the thing. Fastman provides a specialized connector for OpenText Content Suite and extended ECM. Essentially, the first key thing, it lets you sign documents directly from the content server function menu, okay, in both a smart UI and the classic view, for both the DocuSign Agreement Cloud or that signature appliance. So we get both, classic, smart, both the DocuSign solutions. One connector can handle it all from Fastman. Furthermore, the Fastman connector provides some advanced signing profile functionality to let you control the rights to sign specific documents based on the file type, the file characteristics, and the role of the signer. In other words, who can sign, what content, and what location, including your content server workflows, right? The profiles give you a good amount of configuration flexibility and control. Providing signature capabilities from within Content Suite will also drive your user adoption and better record keeping. So it's really kind of where you get end-to-end solutions going using the connector. If you're moving to or already using Office 365 and looking for the best way to connect it with Content Suite, Why not consider extended ECM? It's becoming a very popular solution and an industry best practice for working with like Microsoft Office 365. You can see an example of Teams right here. With this solution, you'll be able to expose, with the connector specifically, you'll be able to expose signing functionality through the embedded content widgets at the document level within the business workspace. And that's an example right here. For instance, I need to sign this correspondence document. Just click on the function menu and sign with DocuSign. Thanks to the Fastman connector, you can control the business rules and only expose signing capabilities to whom is required and when applicable. Again, keeping configuration flexibility and signing control as part of the business rules. So you can see with your extended ECM right within the widget right here, you'll be able to provide that functionality. So this is an example of Office 365. Likewise, with your other line of business applications, whether that, if you have a business workspace or connected workspace from that's within SAP or Salesforce.com, same thing. If you want to be able to sign from a business workspace within that extended ECM widget that's in your line of business, the Fastman connector is going to help you do that too. Okay, so here's an example. Here's how it kind of looks before we get into the demo. Here's an example of DocuSign Agreement Cloud. So this is the cloud version, e-signature, which shows this e-signature solution in action. Note how the initiation, and that's over here. I got two screens, so sometimes I will go back and forth. Note how the initiation from a sender occurs with an OpenText content server, and the document is physically sent to the cloud. Signers will participate, and this is the point. Once that occurs, your signers will participate using the DocuSign workflow at this point, which includes email notifications, as I got some examples up here. And then when they're done with their job, or that transaction is complete, that signed document and the completed transactions are returned to Content Server and automatically saved as versions within Content Server. It can be very fast to deploy the solution too. And this requires just the Fastman Content Server with a DocuSign connector. Well, the Fastman Content Server DocuSign connector with the agreement, with a subscription to the DocuSign Agreement Cloud. But again, you can send documents out from Content Server. You can live within Content Server, initiate it. People can sign using the DocuSign workflow. And the nice thing is the documents will leave the cloud and come back to your repository in Content Server. That's the big value right there. We're going to show that shortly too. Alternatively, we talked about the DocuSign Signature Appliance. This is the on-prem signing solution. And as you can see here, it's actually a physical device that gets deployed in your data center. And what it is, it's under your control. Okay? This provides you numerous security and compliance advantages since it's under your control. And there's also numerous ways for your end users to access the signing functionality, whether it's from pre-built connectors, such as the Fastman connector that has been built, or there's out-of-the-box desktop applications that can be used to sign documents. And there's even mobile apps for this too. We're going to demonstrate how both of them work, and they're very seamless how they go. But really, depending on your situation, the nice thing is that we got a variety of solutions to handle your needs. So we're going to transition right now from the presentation, and I'm going to do a few signing demonstrations, as you can see, 1 through 5 here. We're going to sign off on a legal correspondence. I'm going to be in Content Server, and I have a job. I got to review and approve a few documents. I'm going to sign off on those. And then maybe I need to collect a signature from someone outside of my organization. I can show you how easy it is to send it out using the DocuSign Agreement Cloud. Like here, I have an example of an NDA. And then I have an on-prem, maybe a highly secure situation where I want to put that traditional, digital signature on a document. So I'm going to sign off on a engineering drawing using a PKI-based digital signature. And I got a few other things that I can do here. This SOP, and then I even have a workflow here. So let's take a look and see it in action. Let me just do some of this. Here we go. Is everyone familiar with Content Suite? I think we're running 16.2.11 right here. Solutions compatible, we'll talk about it later with the latest versions of Content Suite 22, even 23. So we're in good shape there. Let's take a look at, we're going to go into this container right here, the Fastman company. There we go, refreshing my screen. And here we go. I have a collection of documents, and I set them up in the various scenarios that we talked about in the presentation. So the first one, I have a legal correspondence. And I basically, the situation is I drafted this document, Microsoft Word, and now I need to put my signature on this document, and then it can have effect wherever it needs to travel. Okay, so I just want to sign it using DocuSign Cloud from Content Suite. And your Content Suite could be on-prem, wherever it's hosted, doesn't necessarily matter as long as you connect it to the DocuSign system in the cloud. But I can get to the signing functionality right from the function menu, whether I come in this way through the little widget here, or if I select the document right up here in the menu, sign with DocuSign appears. And so I'm going to go sign. I'm going to sign this Microsoft Word document using the DocuSign Agreement Cloud. And here's when I mentioned the signing profiles. These profiles. This bit right here is provided by Fastman. It's part of our connector, and this is what lets you control the situation. So, based on my security profile, I have the ability. I have these 4 different profiles, and they all do slightly different things for me. And you can configure as many of these signing profiles as you like, based on your business rules. So, in this situation right now, I have a correspondence that I want to sign, and I want to sign it directly within Content Server. So I go sign with DocuSign. It's now taking that document, preparing it, and putting it into the DocuSign Agreement Cloud, and making it ready for me to sign off on the document. You can see me logging directly into DocuSign at this point. There's the correspondence that came in. As I come down, I can now very quickly and simply put my signature on the document and any of the other, metadata values that I want to put on here. All this right here is powered and driven by DocuSign at this point. And here's just ad hoc signing and me doing an approval. I click finish. What DocuSign does too, you'll notice that I started off as a Word document when I sent it to it. It's actually going to return this as a version, as a PDF. Because what DocuSign, when it ingests a Word document, it does convert it on the fly to a PDF. And so it's right now, the document's coming back from the cloud. We'll come back to this shortly. I have a similar one right here. Here's a PDF. Here's a document that's already a PDF, and it's basically a PO that I need to sign off on. Sign with DocuSign. Use my signature profiles here real quick. Doing an accounting approval at this point. And you can name those profiles anything you really want to. They can be as descriptive as they need to be. You may only have 1 or 2 at most. Really depends on your business situation. This is my demo environment, so I do a lot of different things. So I like to have access to a variety of use cases. Again, it's that PO, like this document was in Content Server, and now it's in the DocuSign system. And I can essentially, if I'm the CFO or the accounting manager, I can approve this purchase order. As simple as this. And when I click finish, it's going to take me back to Content Server. And actually, not even more, it's going to put that document back in Content Server. Note the legal correspondence. It started off as the icon was a Microsoft Word. As it returns that document back in, it saves it as a version, the PDF. And if we were to look at the versions, you'll see the 2 different versions here. There we go. It's a separate 2. Here's the original Microsoft Word file. Here's the document that came back from the DocuSign Agreement Cloud. It's all packaged together nicely. All right. Very good. What else do we get to do here? Not everyone's still running in the Smart UI, but you can see this is very nice. This works within your extended ECM environments. So if you need to deploy to a lot of users, but I still have a lot of customers that we talk to that are basically in the classic UI. There we go. Then we're going to go to Classic View here real quick, just to show you working in the Classic View. Again, I'm in 16.2.11. I had signed this legal correspondence with the cloud, this PO. You know, what's the other scenario? I want to send an NDA out to somebody outside of my organization. I want to send it to them and have them sign it. So again, I can use my signature profiles here to send to, and this one's allowing me to send to an external user here. I'm going to send it to my friend here, John Smith. I'm going to use my personal email address right here, you know, Outlook. So it's just going to go to a webmail. When I click sign with DocuSign, it's now going to send an email notification to B. Lapointe at Outlook. Processing it. So it's sending that note. It's basically pushing that document into the DocuSign Agreement Cloud, and then DocuSign's workflow and email notifications are taken over. When I click done, it takes me back to Content Suite. Notice how documents get reserved. You see the little check mark. You saw it in the Smart UI. You see it in Classic here. Documents do get reserved when they're out for signature. And if I am to come into Outlook, this is my Outlook web client, and here's that NDA document that I just sent out to B. Lapointe at Outlook.com, John Smith. I'll come in here, and now I'm just logging in directly into DocuSign again. Here's the NDA. Simple. I'm just looking for a signature at this point. I can drop my signature on the document right here. I have full control of these details. When I click finish, so it's just going to, again, return it to the content service system. That's really the big benefit, is initiating and having the documents return back in. Because otherwise they just sit out there in the cloud. How do you know you get them back? From a record keeping perspective, that's definitely a best practice with Content Suite. So this will be coming back momentarily. If I hit refresh, it may be back already. I know it hasn't come back because it's still reserved. It usually only takes a second or two. Well, sometimes 10 seconds. Yeah, and now it's here. And if I was to look at the versions, it's the same thing. You'll see the both versions right here, right? Works nice. Let's come back to here. Okay. Earlier in the presentation, I talked about the two DocuSign solutions. So that's the cloud. Okay, that's the DocuSign Agreement Cloud, electronic signature that has that audit trail that tracks it. Now, if you're looking for a standard digital signature that's PKI based, that you control, that's an individual certificate, and you have high assurance on the identity of the person signing, the DocuSign Signature Appliance is a great solution for that. And the same thing, from a connector perspective, I have this engineering drawing. I can come down, sign with DocuSign. I use my my signature profiles. This one I have DSA configured right here. It's called Performance Review. I could probably have changed it to Engineering Review or something like that instead. But regardless, it's going to basically allow me to communicate with the DSA in this situation. And when I go sign with DocuSign, it's going to take me to the DSA signing experience. And it'll be popping up momentarily. And just so you know, I'm using the Fastman demo system, which is hosted in our Microsoft Azure environment that we provide. And I'm going to log into the DSA right here to sign my document. But this is all infrastructure you can host. And here's an engineering drawing. And this one already has an embedded signature on it. So, you know, you could do ad hoc signing and drag and drop a signature field where you like it. But sometimes it's nice to have them pre-embedded, especially on certain types of templates or on an engineering drawing, so it goes in the border the way it should. So when I click sign, these graphical signatures are available to me, and they're actually stored on the DSA too, so you can load them in one time. But what I really want to get access to is my engineering seal. So you can, if you're an engineer, this is a nice feature people like to have. They can load up their engineering seals and have access to them, and the only, you know, obviously you have control of them at this point. When I click apply, It's taking a hash of the document, it's generating a digital signature and embedding the certificate into this document at this point. There's that graphical engineering seal, but it's more than just like an e-sign with content server, which is really just a stamp. This is a true digital signature. And so I'm using my trial account on the DocuSign signature appliance, but this is you can see the signature is valid and so forth. Here, I'll download it, the PDF, and we can take a look at it there too. But we can validate it. So no matter where this document travels now at this point, the signature can be inspected, relied upon, and it doesn't need to have any dial back or connection back to the DSA. Everything you need is already embedded in there, and it adheres to all the different digital signature standards that are out there. This document has multiple pages saying, hey, I got another one. You got a second signature you need to sign off on. Put my seal there. And it's, when it's doing that circle, it's basically, it takes a mathematical calculation of a hash value, and that's what basically seals these documents. When I click done, it's going to take me back to Content Suite. And with the DSA in the connector, there's a couple other pieces that we have. We have these different, in the profile, we have these columns that display that a digital signature has been applied, who's the last person to sign it, when did they sign it, and how many signatures are in the document. What's nice about that too is that you can come down and review signatures. And so this only has 2, but a lot of times these are large documents, and they could have multiple signatures in them, 5 signatures, 10, how many, because you can basically, and these are 2 signatures done by me, but you could be passing this document around in your engineering group or anywhere you're signing with digital signatures, and different people will be adding their digital signature to the document. So you want to be able to collect them, and you can review, without having to download the document, you can review the signature details right from the connector that we have. Again, it's a standard digital signature. If I was to download it, click download, here we go. I just downloaded right here. So I have Adobe Reader as my standard PDF reader. When I open up that same document that I just signed, I can also inspect the graphical, see it's verifying signatures. And what I expect to get is momentarily when this loads up, it's still loading, but it's going to give me the green check mark. See the green check mark right here. Here's the digital signature. This is all standard validation. So this is what I mean by if this document travels outside of Content Suite, no matter where it goes, the digital signature is essentially embedded into the document. Shows that it's valid. If anyone tampers with a document, you'll get the red X that shows that it's been tampered with, and you shouldn't trust it. And that's how digital signatures would work. Great. How are we doing on time? Okay, I think we're doing fine. If you have workflows, I'm going to just transition to workflows at this point. I have this one already in flight, this purchase requisition. Say you're using the content server workflows. We have the ability to tie in with into those. We could, where is it? Right here. We have functionality. See, we could initiate a signing workflow right from the document level here. So maybe I create a document and I know who I need to route these to, and I'm going to use the workflow that I configured for it. So we can tie into your workflows and help you with that. This one's already been assigned and in flight, and I assigned it to myself. And if I was to go to my assignments in Content Suite, many of you are probably very familiar with that. Here it is right here on the 18th. This is the assignment. I need to, let's say someone initiated this workflow. My job in this stage, in this step of the workflow, is to come in. I would have specific instructions could be configured here. I can take a look at those documents, make sure they're in good order. And if they're in good order, I want to essentially just approve them and send it off to the final. And what this workflow does is sends it to the final person for signing. Click approve. You can see it's the second signer right now. So that basically is, when I started this, I used myself twice so that it makes it easy for demo, but think of the different steps in an approval process. You have your initiator, you have your reviewer maybe, and then you have the final executive who's signing off on that large important contract that you're having done here. So they would get an email notification or come to their assignments or participate in workflow through here. But whether you want to sign, again, right at the function level, here's that document. I can basically get access to my signing functionality right within the user interface, which is nice. And you can sign it right now, whether it's with the DSA, the DocuSign Signature Appliance, or use the DocuSign Agreement Cloud. And when they're done, they would sign, just like I showed you earlier, and we approve the workflow, and now the workflow is complete. And people can be notified downstream of the business process that it's been completed. So we're almost done here. I'm going to talk a little bit as we wrap things up about essentially the Fastman connector, what it kind of brings to the table. And I'm going to show it to you in the slides too in a moment, but it really is these signature profiles. So we have the signature profile volume right here, and it takes me here at this point. And so I have two sets, one for the Agreement Cloud or one for the Signature Appliance. But you can make as many of these as you like. So if I come into the Agreement Cloud, you can see I created 4. Like I said, I can create as many as I like, and these can kind of control, be attached to certain groups, user groups in your system. So if they're attached with this profile, then it'll expose signing functionality to them. So it just lets you handle the scenarios like, what am I doing? Is it for NDAs? Is it for accounting approval? And it gives you, controls within the profile to enable it, and some other fancy functionality that makes it usable. The content suite system with the DocuSign Agreement Cloud or the DSA. Okay, so Alistair, I only have a few more things to talk about here. I know you've been in the background listening in. I'm gonna pull up my my presentation slides. It's just going to talk a little bit more about those signing profiles.
Yeah, sounds like a good idea. Yeah. After you've done that, Brian, I've got a couple of typical questions. It's unusual in this format because we don't have an audience that we can talk backwards and forwards with. But I've got a couple of classic questions we generally get, and observations as well. So once you finish these slides, I'll throw those at you and see how we go. Okay.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay.
Just a few more, and we'll share these slides, I'm sure. It's a simple deployment, you'll see, of the connector. It's an OScript module, so it just kind of goes in, and it'll be in your admin screens when it goes in. Very simple to set it up, and you can see pretty much no matter what version of Content Suite you're on, we have support with our connector all the way to 23. So people have been using it since the earlier versions. Obviously, Content Server goes back even further, but that's a long time ago. Here's those signing profiles that we talked about. You can manage multiple profiles based on the business needs, which is nice. So if there's certain rules assigned to your contracts versus HR versus procurement, this gives you those controls that you probably will need to make it effective with the Content Suite. And just to wrap it up, as we mentioned before, Fastman develops, supports, and directly sells the connector for DocuSign Content Suite. We can provide a whole bunch of value around configuring the workflows or just assigning processes to this, so it'll be well adapted by your users. And it's also, we're also an authorized DocuSign reseller, so we can quote, we can sell, and we can deliver the DocuSign infrastructure to your organization too, along with the connector. And it makes it a lot easier for you guys to get up and running that way fast too, because we'll be responsible for it all. And with that said, Mr. Griggs, what do you have? You got a few questions or some thoughts?
Yeah, I enjoyed that. I tell you, every time we do one of these presentations on DocuSign, I learn something, and it's something new. And I also have more questions. And then I recall that most times the questions have been asked by our customers over the years. I got to say, I like the I've always enjoyed the fact that we've got a solution which is looks so simple, but under the covers, there's a lot of work and a lot of thought gone into it, and people don't really appreciate that, I think, a lot of the time. We've been doing this for 8 years with DocuSign, and built a really good relationship with them, and so one of the things that I really think gets missed a little bit is the knowledge, the context, and so being able to do a turnkey solution. We don't just ask you to, we don't ask customers just to buy the product and then figure it out themselves. So we've got the hooks, and I think you represent a lot of that too, Brian. We've got the hooks and the connections inside the DocuSign organization, and they are, without doubt, the leading signature vendor in the world. I mean, you just look at their market position and their stock price and how people do all that sort of, measure them that way. But some of the questions that I get from people on a regular basis, I made a few little notes, so I'm picking up from my notes. So really, how much of this is about a product, and how much of it is about the knowledge and the business? You know, the business process of signing documents, all the legal implications, and how much of that is important to customers when they're rolling these things out? These sorts of projects.
E-signature, DocuSign, it's like an onion. There's so many layers to it, and kind of what starts to happen with a lot of companies as they get into it. That's what I talked about up front, the demand plan. Because once you start to put that plan together and know where and prioritize your use cases, then you can start to really think about some of those requirements. What countries do I need to do business in? Am I allowed to do business in them with these things? How do I know? I have to talk to my legal group and advise them that I need to get documents signed in Eastern Europe, you know, wherever it is and what those are. The nice thing with DocuSign having a worldwide operation, they have best practice. They've experienced it already. You know, and with Fastman ourselves, we can kind of guide a lot of customers through a lot of those needs. Things keep coming up. E-notary is a big hot topic right now. You'll notice for e-signature. Every quarter there'll be something new. The nice thing about this solution, it's on the forefront.
Yeah, it's good.
So it's not just putting the nuts and bolts together. It's the know-how, the best practice, and so forth, Alistair.
That's good. And on that same front, the two solutions can coexist, right? So what you demonstrated today was one OpenText system. Now, it could have been extended ECM as well, but you demonstrated one OpenText system talking to the two DocuSign solutions seamlessly. So an end user doesn't really, apart from the slightly different user experience, doesn't really need to know that one's being sent off to the cloud and one's actually being done in a highly secure on-premise appliance.
You know what happens is a lot of times public sector companies need to have a real high assurance on certain types of documents related to financial transactions, and they really and their rules say, hey, you got to have a PKI digital signature on these types of documents. But then in other use cases, they want to be able to collect signatures from people outside, where the assurance, I use the word assurance level, you know, meaning, do I know who that person is? What level of assurance on that person do I need to have? It's a little lower because it's not about the money or financial transaction. So they can use they can use the cloud for that situation. I think the vast majority are e-signature transactions. I would say that people are doing, but there are certain cases where you need to have a real strong digital signature, and it's nice to be able to control that from one interface.
Yeah, and it's interesting, isn't it? When you look about the markets, the verticals we operate in, it's surprising how often that comes up, because it's easy to see in people talk about security organizations or intelligence, and they know that they're highly secure, environments that have very strict firewall rules and so on. But what a lot of people don't realize is even utilities. We both live in California, and so some large utilities here, they have obligations to the regulatory authorities, which mean that they can't just rely on often they can't rely on just on a simple stamp or the equivalent thereof. Even a digitally signed stamp, the appliance side of thing does come into play more often there than we would have realized initially. So the other question that comes up, we do provide turnkey solutions. So people can come to Fastman and they can buy the licenses and the connector and also the implementation services, all that sort of stuff that goes with it. But if customers have existing DocuSign licenses and they want to then enable those into their OpenText environment, perhaps extend them and add the appliance or whatever. Now, I know the answer to the question, but it comes up from customers quite often. So we're able to do that if the customer's got an existing enterprise, or even if they haven't got an enterprise license for DocuSign, but they want to use that, utilize that for their OpenText, and then extend it. We can handle that as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you already have your investment in the DocuSign subscription and got it set up and you're using it, that's fine. I would take a look at the connector and see how you can make that more seamless with your workflows. I mean, a lot of companies already have one or more DocuSign accounts, so subscriptions in place.
Yeah, it's more often than not they have more than one.
Yeah, it's just like a lot of other line of business applications they have. You run in, some department has their own budget and buys their own subscription to that service, and they've been using it for many years now and so forth.
Yep.
So if you're the content server administrator, it's fine. We can connect to those different systems.
Yeah, it's good. Thanks, Brian. I think that's everything. Unless you've got something else you wanted to cover before we finish up.
I think I'm good. No, if we're happy to always jump on the phone and do a demonstration or a discovery call and help you through the planning stages of moving to electronic signature. We can give you some good tips on that. So we welcome the opportunity to talk to people about it.
Yeah, and I appreciate people taking the time to watch this session inside the Solex Expo. And please do use the mechanisms that have been provided within the Expo to reach out to us, ask questions, we'll follow up. And if you'd like to see this in more detail, then obviously we're always more than happy to do that. And we do work on multiple time zones. It doesn't matter where you are, just so you know. These sessions have been run 2 or 3 times throughout the event, but we do operate, I mentioned at the start, in different locations, and we're very flexible in terms of time zones. So don't be worried about us having to do a demo first thing in the morning or late in the evening. So on that front, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks,
Good job.
Everyone.